Hello, and welcome to Rochester Transit-Oriented Development. My name is Harry Davis. Transportation choices are key to laying the foundation for transit-oriented development, both here in Rochester, New York, and nationally across the United States. High-quality rail systems encourage compact, walkable communities and provide sustainable, comfortable transportation while greatly reducing oil use. This also reduces greenhouse gases, helping to solve global warming. Walkable communities support rail systems by providing high ridership.
I'm Bob Smith, and downtown is definitely changing. Part of that change could be a new transportation center for the center of the city. RGRTA wants to build it on part of the property that was once destined to be the Renaissance Square project, a project which is no more. But is that center for transit as it's currently envisioned right for downtown, and how will it affect the future development of the Central Business District? Rochester City Council member Carla Palumbo chairs the Council's Committee on Neighborhood and Business Development.
This is where the Mortimer Bus Barn is going to be built, right here at the intersection of Mortimer Street and St. Paul Street, directly next to the Warner Building. Bus fumes will go into the rooms of all the people living in this building right here.
You know, really at this point, we are beyond the issue of location, because the location has pretty much been settled by the last council vote.
So where does it go, and what goes away where this facility is built? Is anything going to be taken out that's familiar to people?
I believe I'm trying to envision it right in front of me, and I can't without looking at the map, but there are no buildings that are going to come down. It's a parking lot now. It's an empty lot right now. There is a parking lot that is being used now by, I believe, the SUNY Brockport people, and perhaps the people in the Warner Building, I believe, might even own that lot, the owners, Mark IV. I'm not going to, without it in front of me, I'm not going to say specifically. But, you know, one of the issues the council has asked RGRTA to deal with, and in the implementation, is the issue of parking, both for the people that work at the transit center and for the surrounding areas. And that's an issue that's we haven't gotten to that issue yet. At this point, we're looking at the design development. We had a design. We've had many designs of a transit center from the original design, and we have a current design that is sort of really our working on the table design. And what we heard loud and clear when we conducted the hearings before we took the vote was that people wanted to have input into the final design of the project, and that's the stage that we're at now. There's going to be, bathroom facilities. If you need to use the bathroom, there's a bathroom. But what we did was we condemned Mortimer Street. That's it. RGRTA needs to condemn the parking lots and pay whatever they need to pay for whoever owns that area.
We have Mike in Arundequoit on the line. Hello, Mike. You're on the air.
I'm one of the people in that group that would like to see us move from a bus depot to a true transportation center that is multimodal, that would put the trains along with buses.
I think the caller makes a really good point that we love our cars, and I think there's a difference between the Amtrak and the Amtrak station that might become multimodal with Greyhound and Trailways altogether. Those are people that are coming in and out of Rochester. They're not people that are traveling around Rochester. Our traveling around Rochester transportation system at the moment is the bus system. Would we be able to sustain at some point in the future light rail or tram? I don't think it's an idea that's off any table or on any table. I think it's an idea that we kind of float every once in a while.
Harry in the city next. Harry, you're on the air.
Council Member Palumbo, with all due respect, as you just admitted, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's not for you to, wonder what we're going to do with parking, or for that matter, such a huge project, $52 million Mortimer Bus Barn, that everybody should be saying, wow, what a great thing that's coming here. Rather, now you're building two transit centers, which is a total waste of money. The President of the United States has livability funds and a whole big plan for intermodal connectedness, which will, if you use this money correctly, you'll have funds to develop that whole Amtrak area with retail, commercial, residential development. But you decided that, as Mayor Duffy told me after your vote, the RGRTA is more powerful than the mayor and city council. Next year, you are up for election, McFadden, Spall, and Warren. I suggest that everybody mobilize to get you people unelected, get a new mayor that can turn this thing around. John Robert Smith was here in Rochester. You refused to listen to him. He is a former CEO of Amtrak and a Republican mayor who has successfully done development like this and could bring all the development to this area. I had a conversation with the Deputy Secretary of Transportation when you had your vote, which she wanted to speak with you on conference call and explain to you how you could use these livability funds and create development. And she said that a standalone bus terminal will adversely affect the future of high-speed rail funding. Now, we've already seen high-speed rail funding cut from what we should be getting because our people in Albany did not prepare the proposal correctly. Patterson wanted $600 million. We got $151 million, and next to nothing for Rochester. So why did you not go listen to John Robert Smith and tell you how you could use these funds so this would create the downtown development the way it should be, and now all you're talking about doing is getting the black kids off the street?
Well, you know what, Harry, I am not going to respond on the air to your, misconstrued things that happened. I'm not going to answer you on this, and this is not why we did it. You know very well that we're talking about two different things. High-speed rail does not move people around the city of Rochester. It moves people to and from Rochester. Most people that are going to take high-speed rail are going to drive their cars to the train station, get on the train, and go to where they're going. I'm happy to discuss this with you offline. You know that, but I'm not going to do it here on the air.
Hello, Michael.
Hi, Bob. Carla, hi. I spoke at the one of the public hearings. I'm from RochesterSubway.com. And my concern was that the city seems to be lacking a comprehensive transportation plan that we can use as a blueprint going forward over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You keep talking about possibilities of light rail, trolleys, and this is an ongoing conversation, and I applaud that. So from this point, we have to be looking at how we're developing downtown moving forward and how the terminal is going to be connected to all of this development, how it's going to be connected to the Amtrak intermodal station. There's also a circulator study going on right now to consider the possibility of a fixed guideway circulator like a streetcar or even a bus that would connect all of the parking facilities downtown with these transportation terminals and other locations. Can you talk to the possibility of establishing a transportation plan moving forward, what that would entail, and also why don't we have one currently? I know the city has a master plan, but there is no transportation layer to that plan.
There is a transportation plan. I don't have it with me, but there is a plan. I mean, it's a document that exists and as you say, it's a plan. So a plan needs to be something that you work off of. And, a plan is only as good also as the funding we can get to do some of the stuff that we plan to do. So, in these times to say, hey, I think we're going to need a light rail system in Rochester in 10 years, and that would be our plan, but it's going to cost us $100 million, and there's nowhere, that we can get $100 million, isn't a very realistic plan. I know there is a transit plan, and from there, we do need to begin to look at all these other elements, and, it isn't the job of city council to do the plan. It's the job of the city to do the plan. So it's there, and there are city engineers and traffic engineers. And that's what they spend their days doing. They look at the plan that we have going forward. They look at sort of the future planning and the trends, and then they make an assessment.
I wanted to ask you some follow-up questions about the transportation issues. You were on Bob Smith's program last week, and in that conversation, you indicated the issue of the transportation plan came up, and I think you indicated that there was one, but you weren't sure on the content. Have you had a chance to look at that now?
Actually, there is a transit study that's related to the transit center. That's a public document. We can get that to you.
Is that a public document?
It's a public document.
Does that cover that plan? Was that a plan that was for the public?
I'll have Andrea.
Yeah,
I'll have Andrea be in touch with you to get your copy of that plan. Okay. I think it's online. I don't know if it's online, but I will get that for you.
Well, I wanted to ask you, is that plan, has that been...
Praise the Lord. Doing good, thank you, sir.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, has that plan been put to the public recently?
Yes, it's a public document.
And when was it put to public?
You have to ask Andrea, because I don't have I would have to ask Andrea or one of the people in the commissioner's office.
So you're not sure when it was...
It's a public document.
And does that include about having two transportation centers?
Document, so you can take a look at what it says.
Does it cover, though, having two transportation centers? Is what I'm trying to ask you.
How I indicate to you it's a public document. You want to read the document, you go right ahead and read it.
So you're not sure what I'm asking?
Thank you. I'm not answering any more of your questions. Yes.
Bonnie, you're on the air.
Yes, hi. I attended the public hearings on the bus barn over, I think there were 4 of them. And during those hearings, there were many wonderful speakers who really were very knowledgeable about intermodal transportation. And I just listened to those tapes. I have the tapes, and again was really impressed by the people who really knew what intermodal is. And the conversation that's going on now reflects the fact that the City Council, Carla perhaps particularly, but the City Council, some of the members, seem to not know really what it is. It is not just, sure, fast rail may be the main thing to start with, but it is not just built around fast rail. The very definition of intermodal is to have a numbers of transportation systems in one place, both for convenience and for environmental reasons. And so I think what's happening now in this conversation is because the City Council, under the pressure also of the Transit Authority, already has supported this bus barn, that now they're in a situation of having to support it. And the other piece of this is you have to have connectability. So how are they going to connect to an intermodal station from a bus barn that's not nearby? And I also want to put in this conversation that it's my understanding that Louise Slaughter, the money for the intermodal, and this should be in this conversation, for Rochester has already been designated. I think it's $1 million+ dollars to build an intermodal, and that is not being reflected in this conversation. And that was predicted when the hearings were held. There were many people who, Louise Slaughter has been fighting this for years, who said this is coming, and now it's coming, and it's here, the money to do it, and we're now stuck in this problem. And I think there's some misinformation being represented here as to what is really actually going on.
Well, again, clearly the train station, the Amtrak station, is what is being referred to as, developing it into an intermodal station, to have trains, to have Greyhound and Trailway, and certainly to the extent that people need to get from the train station to someplace else in the city.
Thomas in the city. Hello, Thomas. You're on the air.
Okay. First off, I want to give kudos to Bonnie, who was the last caller, I believe, or the caller before, because that's what we need on city planners. Not somebody who's going to go, we got to look 4 years down the road or 3 years down the road. We need action that is actually going to happen now.
In Rochester this past June, we had the opportunity to embark on a true transit-oriented development project at the Amtrak station. But instead of doing this, our mayor and city council caved to the pressure of the RGRTA and instead spent $52 million to build the Mortimer Street bus barn. This did not have to happen. After the city council vote, Mayor Duffy specifically told me, Harry, the RGRTA is more powerful than the mayor or city council. We say we must take back our city from the RGRTA, build sensible transit-oriented development in downtown Rochester, and create the residential, commercial, and retail development that transit-oriented development will provide. Thank you.